Okay.
Let's go beyond the barometer now and
Yes.
talk about fall colors. How does the weather affect the color of the leaves?
Well, initially during the fall time, as we see fall colors change, mainly for two reasons. One, obviously because the temperature is getting colder, but also has to do with the sun angle. Obviously, after September 22nd, the sun dips below the equator, and the sun angle is much lower, which is causing the orange and yellow color to the leaves. But the red and purple colors have to do with the cool nights and the dry and relatively mild days. You don't want to get too warm, but you also don't want to get it too cold, because if it gets too cold, then it gets frosty, and that really doesn't impact the change to the colors. The other thing to point out is the fall colors are impacted by the springtime. Wet growing seasons produce better fall colors, and dry conditions, unfortunately, like we're having this year, produce less colors.
Do you think we'll lose most of the leaves after all this rain?
Yeah,
and the wind?
Yeah, rainfall and wind don't really change the colors, but as you pointed out, it does have an impact to how many leaves fall.
You know what I've noticed just anecdotally? There aren't as many reds this year. Have you noticed that?
Depends on what trees are planted.
Yeah, it's mostly yellows and...
Well, like I said, yellow, because the yellow is mostly due to the sun angle, and that obviously happens every year, but the red has to do with the temperature, and it's been a relatively mild fall. If we take a look at this year, because of that late drought, or the drought in the late springtime and the relatively warm temperatures this fall, we're seeing a delay in the peak colors and in general a lower intensity. So looking at the current fall conditions, you know, it looks pretty good. But typically, the central portion of the state should be seeing a lot more red at this time, but we're seeing a lot more yellow and orange, and the southern portion of the state should be almost all yellow, but there are still some green. And that's because the peak time should be right now for the central portion of the state, but it's going to be delayed just a little bit. And in late September, early October, that's the northern part of the state sees the peak. But pretty much none of the northern states saw a peak in late September. It was mostly at the change of the month. So because of the drought in the spring and the relatively warm temperatures this fall, we've been seeing a delay in the fall colors. So yeah, people don't realize that the springtime has a lot to do with the fall colors.
All right, thank you.
Interesting. Thank you, Jacob.